Hey guys, it's Tim again. Just wanted to give you a quick optimizer run through. We did the matchup tool, we did the control tower tool run through. So if you haven't checked those out, give those a quick look. If you're having trouble using those or you just want to get to know it a little bit better. So the optimizer is obviously found under the NBA tab, and you can click on whichever site you're using. We're going to do FanDuel for this. And it opens up and it shows a lot of the things that the control tower shows: DVP, projection, grade, and whatnot. So you can sort by whatever you want there, and you can sort by point guard, shooting guard, whatever you want to do. So we're gonna just keep it on all, and you can go through, check out the projections, top flight projection. That's this category. You can sort by that. Figure out who has the highest projection of the night. Tonight would be Giannis at 61 points, and we project him for 5.3x. Now, one of the features that we recently added was editable projections. So if you don't like our projection on Giannis, you think he's going to score 50 because it's a tough matchup or a slow-paced game, you can go ahead and you can change that to 50. And it will automatically change the value. Won't change the grade because the grade is based on other factors, but it will change the projection and the value. So you can do a lot of things with the optimizer. You can open up optimizer options, and you can sort by DVP. You can optimize by grade. You can, if you don't want to include any $3,500 guys, you can have 4,000 as your minimum. So we'll just keep that at 35 for the sake of the tutorial. You can pick however many lines to create if you want to do just one lineup, or if you want to do 150. So we'll do 150 just for the sake of the tutorial. And you can choose to only include a max of 3 guys from a particular team, or you can deselect a team entirely, which I don't really recommend doing, but you can do that if you so choose, and just make sure that's on 4, because FanDuel only allows 4, DraftKings allows 5. So you can do all that. You can choose a max of 2 from each team, and this is global exposure. So what that is you can change this to, say, 80%. And what that will do is it will make sure to not put any guy in more than 80% of your lineups. So if you're generating 150 and you choose 80%, it won't put, say, Giannis in more than 80% of those lineups. So you can tinker with that based on your personal preference. We'll just leave it at 100 for the sake of the tutorial. So when you get the options you want, you can click apply. So we're just going to generate some lineups. You want to max enter something, so you put it at 150 lines, 100% exposure, and you can click create lineups. Now it's going to take a couple seconds because 150 lineups is a lot to generate. If you were only generating one, this thing would already have popped up with lineups. So we're generating $1.50. It's going to take probably about 20 seconds to do, I'd say, on average. So it's already done. We'll come down here, and what this shows you right here is the exposures that it's putting in. So we generated 150 lineups. It put Ricky Rubio in 120 of them. So that was 80% exposure that it put in. It put Will Barton in 113. It put Ingram in 112, and so on. You can go through and see the different exposures that it set. And then you can go through and look at all the different lineups that it generated. Generated 150, so I don't think you want to go through and look at all those, but you can if you want. So once you get your lineups generated, and like I said, say you want to max enter something, you need to download the CSV for it. So what you're going to do is you're going to click main slate, and it's going to generate. So keep that CSV file on hand, and then you'll go to FanDuel, and when you open up a lineup page, you'll see upload CSV, and then you can just drag and drop that onto FanDuel's upload screen. But that's how you would generate 150 lineups, save the CSV, and upload. Now, say you want to change player exposures. Let's look at Ricky Rubio, for example. It spit Rubio out at 80%. Say you don't want Rubio in more than 60% of your lineups. So I don't see him listed here. So we're going to go type in his name. Ricky Rubio, like I said, you don't want him in more than 60% of your lineups. So you can change the individual max exposure to 60%. And that means it shouldn't put Rubio in more than 60% of the lineup. So we're going to try to regenerate and see what it does with Rubio. Once again, click Create Lineups and wait a little while because we are generating 150. So like I said, it's going to take about 10 to 20 seconds to do. All right, generated our 150. So we're going to come down. And there you go. It changed Rubio to 60% of the lineups, and it gave us a whole different set of 150 lineups. So if you like that, you can download the CSV for that, and just make sure you keep a track of the CSVs. And I would recommend just downloading once you have exposures that you like and that you're ready to move forward with. You know, don't download it after every single lineup generation because then you'll get them mixed up. So that's just an individual player exposure. Now, say you don't want any one guy in more than 60% of your lineups, not just Rubio, but every guy. So you see Ingram at 78, Lonzo at 78, Barton at 74. But you don't want any one guy more than 70%. So we'll go back to the optimizer options, 150, and this is where the global max exposure comes in. So we don't want anyone at more than 75, we'll say 70%, 70% of the lineups. So we'll change that to 70. Come down here, we'll hit apply, and we will hit create lineups, generate our 150. Once again, it's going to take about 10 to 20 seconds based on 150 lineups. If we were doing one lineup, it would spit out basically instantly. So we'll wait for this to generate. Now we should see no more than 70% on any guy. Come down here, and there you go. 70% is the most it put anyone in. So I'm going to go up here to optimizer options. I'm going to reset all, so it gets us back to 100%, which is the default. Now, say it is you want a guy in 80% of your lineups. Actually, let's apply and create 150 again. We'll go to optimizer options, reset options. And we want to generate 20 lineups. Apply, create lineups. Oh, I think I have too many here, so I'm going to delete all these. I'm going to refresh the page because I think I just changed it way too much to keep track with. So we'll open the optimizer back up. Optimizer options. We will generate 100 just to keep it simple. Apply. We'll create lineups. Once again, it'll take a little while because we're generating so many. So if we go down here and you see that it's only putting, say you like Derek Favors, and it's only putting him in 56% of your lineups, but you want him in 80% of your lineups. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to force him in. So what you would do in that case is you would go and find Derek Favors, which is right here. He's right on the first page. And you're going to set him at 80%. And you're going to basically force the optimizer to put him in. So what you're going to do is you're going to up his projection. Let's say 45. We're just going to, wrong column. We're going to put him at 45 points. We're going to force the optimizer's hand. So we're going to up his projection to like something crazy. And then we're going to put a max exposure of 80. So this will pretty much guarantee that Derek Favors ends up in 80% of our lineups. So we're going to do that. We're going to click Create Lineups. And it should bring Favors at 80% or close to it. So it generates. We come down here. Derek Favors. There you go. It forced him in 80% of our lineups. Now, I don't recommend you do that too often because, I mean, then you really lose the true sense of an optimizer. But manual manipulation is something that makes it go a long way. And some people just, if an optimizer isn't spitting out, say, Donovan Mitchell, and you love Donovan Mitchell that night, but you don't want to lock him, because once you lock him, it's going to put him in all 100 of those lineups. I don't really recommend doing that, but if it's not spitting Mitchell and you want to make sure that he's in 50% of your lineups, so once again, you just go in, type in 50%, change his projection to something much higher, so 50, and we're going to force the optimizer's hand, get him in 50% of our lineups. So we'll go to Create Lineups, and it should put him in 50% of our lineups or close to it. So let's go down here. Our lineups are generated. We'll go down, Donovan Mitchell, 50%. So that's just a way that you can kind of force a guy in to your lineups. If it's not spitting him out at a high rate and you do want him at a high rate, that's what I would recommend doing. Just changing his projection and then his individual exposure. And that's how you do that. All right. So that's just a quick run through on how to work the optimizer. Like I said, there's a lot of different options. Go to NBA FanDuel Optimizer. It'll open up a fresh page for you, and then you can go to town. You can just enter a default, create lineups with no settings touched whatsoever. Some people do that just to see what it's spitting out. So you go into the optimizer, just hit create lineups, and you can see, quote unquote, what the optimizer likes that day. And this will change various times throughout the day because these projections change as player news is dropped. Our projections update every 10 minutes. So if you check it a few times throughout the day, and especially close to lock, and see what the optimizer likes, it might like Favors now, but say some news drops at 5 o'clock today, it might shift things. It might not like Favors so much. So just keep checking it throughout the day, see what it's spitting out for you, and it's a good guide. All right, so any questions on the optimizer, give us a shout, and thanks for watching, guys.